When Daniel woke up, he didn't panic at first. Hospitals had a familiar smell. Clean, cold, distant. The kind of smell that told you everything was under control. He assumed he was tired, sedated, still drifting between dreams. He tried to move his hand. Nothing. He tried again. Harder this time, as if effort alone could wake his body. Nothing. Fear didn't rush in screaming. It arrived quietly, politely, like a guest who didn't ask permission but had no intention of leaving. Daniel opened his mouth to call for help. No sound came out. His chest rose and fell, but not because he told it to. A machine was breathing for him. That's when he understood something was deeply wrong. Not pain, not broken bones. Control. Doctors stood near his bed. They spoke in careful voices, the way people do around fragile things. He's not responding. Massive brainstem stroke. Severe damage. Unlikely to regain consciousness. Daniel heard every word. That was the moment the truth settled in. His mind was awake. His body was gone. Time stopped behaving normally after that. Days blurred together. Or maybe weeks. When you can't move, time loses its meaning. Light burned his eyes because he couldn't look away. Sounds piled up because he couldn't escape them. People talked around him. They talked about him. Never to him. A nurse apologized to another nurse for speaking loudly near the patient. Daniel wanted to laugh. He wanted to scream. He wanted to say, "I can hear you." But his body didn't belong to him anymore. His wife came every evening. She held his hand and talked about ordinary things. Traffic, work, the neighbor's dog. Sometimes she cried quietly, believing he couldn't notice. Once, she said, "I wish you could tell me you're still here." Daniel begged his eyes to move. They didn't. That night, he stared at the ceiling until it blurred, wondering how long a person could stay fully conscious without being acknowledged as alive. Then the conversations changed. Different words, heavier ones. Quality of life. No meaningful recovery. He wouldn't want this. A doctor explained it gently. Too gently. If we remove the ventilator, he won't suffer. He's not aware. Daniel heard that too. Panic exploded inside his mind. He tried to move, tried to blink, tried to do anything. Nothing. That night, his wife stayed longer than usual. She brushed his hair back, held his hand tighter, and she whispered, "If you're still in there, I hope you forgive me." Daniel screamed inside his skull. The next morning, they began removing the support. The room felt suddenly enormous, quiet in a way that pressed against his chest. The machine stopped breathing for him. Air burned. Time shattered into pieces. His mind screamed commands his body couldn't obey. "Breathe. Move. Please." Someone said softly. "See?" No response. Darkness crept in. And then, something happened. A tiny movement, barely visible. One eyelid fell. A nurse froze. "Wait," she said. Not loudly, not confidently, just uncertain. "I think..." He blinked. The room shifted. A doctor leaned closer. Daniel, he said carefully now. Blink once if you can hear me. Daniel gathered everything he had left. Every memory, every fear, every unfinished thought, and pushed. One blink. The room went silent. Machines rushed back. Voices collided. Hands moved fast. He survived. People later called it a miracle, a save, a second chance. They called Daniel strong, inspiring. But no one saw the truth. The truth was darker. Locked-in syndrome didn't take his life. It almost took it by mistake. Because silence was mistaken for absence, stillness for emptiness. Because a living mind was nearly unplugged, simply because it couldn't say, "I'm still here." Locked-in syndrome teaches a brutal lesson. Silence does not mean absence. Stillness does not mean emptiness. Sometimes, the loudest suffering exists inside a body that cannot ask for help.